Good morning, guys. Friday. We made it to the end of the week, which is always a scary thought because this is usually when stuff gets slipped in under the radar. The media's gone home for the week. The politicians are all drunk, and the people don't have any recourse, if you will, to respond. And 3 days later, they're hoping the next Kardashian story is hit, so nobody pays attention to what's going on. With what's going on in Europe, and as it gets hotter and hotter and hotter every day, I don't think they're going to be able to slip too much past the people. Okay. Yesterday we talked about Zelensky asking for tanks and Biden caving. Well, and all of NATO caving too. Okay. The French, the Brits, the Germans. I forgot, one of the Baltic countries sent all of their artillery. I think it was Latvia. Within an hour, we heard the story that now Zelensky wants planes and missiles. It's not going to take long before that wish is granted. I mean, Lockheed has already said, we can ramp up production for F-16s, no problem. Of course they can. They want to make money because how did Lockheed put it? We'll sell it to a country that wants to donate it to Ukraine. Lockheed's not going, we'll just give it to Ukraine. No, they'll sell it. So the money for everything is still going to keep flowing to the defense contractors, no question. Then within a couple hours of that, we heard, well, we want ships and submarines because the Black Sea and yada, yada, yada. Okay. Let's stop and think about this. I told you guys yesterday about a tank crew. Pilots to fly F-16s, all right? There's not a whole lot of Ukrainian pilots who are probably trained in flying American fighter jets, all right? So you got to do that. Now let's talk about ships and submarines. Oh, here's a submarine. We'll just, you have a whole bunch of people who know how to operate a submarine too, right? Mark my words, what's coming next is Zelensky's going to come up and say, we need troops, okay? Not the advisors we already have there. May I remind everybody that Vietnam started with a bunch of advisors, okay? That was it. If I'm not mistaken, so did Afghanistan. And what wound up happening? Boots on the ground. Now here's the problem we run into. The U.S. Army missed its recruiting goals in 2022 by 25%. They got 15,000 less recruits than they hoped for. They got 45,000. They were hoping for 60. Okay. Usually going into a fiscal year, which started last October 1st, okay, the Marine Corps has about 50% of their recruiting goals for the next fiscal year already met on paper. People have signed up for the delayed entry program. This year, they had about 30 going in. The Air Force and the Navy, 25%. None of them are close to meeting their recruiting goals. Yet how long is it going to be? A couple of weeks? A month or two, maybe? Till Zelensky says, I need troops. I need NATO troops, right? Won't be U.S. Army, it'll be NATO. It won't be British Army, they'll be NATO. They'll all get to run around in their little Robin's Egg blue helmets instead, because that doesn't make you a target. But mark my words, Zelensky's going to ask for troops. So how are they going to come up with the troops? And this isn't anything specific to the United States about recruitment goals. The woke standards within the militaries around the world are drastically reducing the enlistment of many countries. Okay. Last year, there was talk in Congress about drafting women, remember, or at least making women register for selective service, and the uproar that was out there. Okay. I've told you before, I'm on the fence with that one. I served with a lot of good women 30 years ago. Okay. I have no problem with the women serving whatsoever. The draft, on the other hand, is a little different. And as you guys have heard me say before, only about 10% of the military are actually combat troops. The other 90% are support. Okay. I've got no problem with women being in the support roles. I just don't think that the women belong in the combat roles. My personal opinion. Call me whatever you want. Hell, on this channel, I've been called every name that you want. Okay, so you want to call me a sexist, call me a sexist. I don't care. And my reason is pretty simple. It's physical strength. Okay, if a woman's got to carry a man, somebody my size. If Mrs. P had to carry somebody my size off the battlefield, it ain't happening. All right, simple as that. It's just body strength. It's the same reason why Leah Thomas should not be swimming against the women in the collegiate ranks of pool. We just have physical differences. But so here's the catch. Do women get drafted? Well, let's take a look at Denmark. Denmark announced yesterday they are considering drafting women. Now, Denmark is a conscription country, meaning every male age 18 has to go serve between 4 and 12 months in the military. Basically long enough to get them trained. All right. So they have what we kind of refer to in the United States as a ready reserve. Now they want to bring the women in. Okay. Makes sense to me. I don't remember when I read this if it was Sweden or Switzerland. It was one of the two of them who also has a conscription program like Denmark. And when it was put to a vote whether they should conscript women, the people overwhelmingly said no. When it was put to a vote, should they conscript men, the people overwhelmingly said yes, including the women who voted. Okay. You know, I'm all for equal rights, but equal means the same. Just saying, okay? But the question comes to this as preppers. What happens when your kids, your grandson, your son, your daughter, your granddaughter gets drafted, goes off to a foreign land, and might not come home? I don't know. Pick something. Recent history, our generations. Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, pick something. Okay. Kuwait. I think we had 180 some odd people die in Kuwait. What happens then? What happens if we go in to defend Taiwan when China eventually attacks? We spread ourselves that thin again. Mind you guys, the last line of defense for the United States is us. Because if our military is already understaffed and we spread ourselves thin onto the European continent and the Asian continent, there ain't nobody left to protect the homeland. And if you think that some bad actors in the world don't realize that, you're sadly mistaken. They're already positioning people all over the United States. The border's open. Why not? Okay. When it comes time that shit hits the fan, you're on your own. All the talk about, oh, the military is going to be against us. There ain't going to be a military, guys. They're all going to be shipped off somewhere else very conveniently, so the United States is ripe pickings. That's what's going on. This whole thing in Ukraine, we aren't fighting for Ukraine. We care less, okay? We're fighting for two things: to protect Joe and all his corruption, and that thing that Democrats like to accuse Republicans all the time about, oil. That's what they're fighting for in Russia, oil. Yep, all those things they told you about Iraq and everything. We fought over here for oil forever. No. Now Joe started his own war for oil. They just won't tell you that. And your kids are going to be sent, mark my words, to fight for that. Pinball out.